Shalakha. It's such a joy to have you on Confab, a special initiative started by My Big Brand Story to share unique stories and compelling narratives.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's a pleasure being here.
Great. So, Shalakha, could you please tell something about your unique startup, PetSitters? PetSitters.
PetSitters. So
Yes.
PetSitters is primarily a dog boarding facility, hence PetSitters. So what we primarily do is whenever people are traveling, whatever reasons they have to basically leave their pet behind, they can't get the pet to participate in any of the particular family functions or anything, and that's when the dogs actually come to stay with me. So when we do say pets, yes, we are largely dogs. We are yet to go further up into other pets because now other pets are also coming into foray, but right now it's primarily dogs. And we started somewhere in 2008, so I think I'm a little older than a startup, maybe like a young adult currently, if I may say so. But yeah, so that's where we started off from. So boarding, training, behavior, activities for dogs, um, activities for humans around dogs is what we primarily do at PetSitters.
So,
Yes.
how did you arrive at this brand name? Like, what kind of triggered that you should be using this brand name?
The actual word babysitters. So I was
Oh,
talking to a
that's
friend. So this was, it actually comes from babysitters. So this was way back in 2007 end, because 2008 is when we started. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and so it kind of came about saying, so this is what I'm looking at doing. And this is, so he said, so do you mean you're a babysitter for pets? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a pet sitter. And that's exactly how it came about. Yeah. So in the literal sense, a generic name, something that people can remember us by. Nothing which there's no further brand name that you need to remember, because we are what we do. We sit pets. Yeah.
interesting. So, tell me something about your brand's unique proposition. So, now, the market is evolving and we see everyone is becoming a pet parent, and
Yes.
this entire landscape is becoming increasingly interesting. You started in
Yes.
2008, and that
Mm-hmm.
time I don't think the industry was so evolved. So could you just kind of tell us what makes this entire proposition so unique?
So when we started in Pune, especially, there weren't anybody. There wasn't anybody actually who was doing this. People were either leaving their pets either at friends' homes, relatives' homes, or maybe from the pet shop or the breeder that they got the puppy from, and those were your options. But I do know of a lot of families back then who had never traveled together as a family because they couldn't leave
Oh,
their pet behind for
oh,
whatever reason. So that was so I think when we moved in, or even today for that matter, we are still very solution driven. We are here to literally cater to that one particular need, which says all of us would like to travel out, and here is a professional setup which is basically taking care of the most loved member of the family, because dogs are not just dogs, they're pets, they're family members, they're well loved, well cared for, and everything. So today, when we look at an entire scope of approximately 6,000 odd pets touched upon in these last
interesting.
15, closing into 15 years, I think what we've managed to do for them is we've managed to give them a good holiday. We've managed to give the pet a good holiday. So that's where we basically come in from, which is where we have people coming in over and over again, because it's like a child, right? So once people are asking for us through word of mouth, so that helps. And that for us is what actually helps us make it into a unique proposition. So we are here to take care of your pet exactly in a way that you would at home. Yes, we are technically a hostel or a boarding facility, but what we have from me, my team, everybody, is the love, care, and the basic requirements. Food, exercise, water, of course, is all taken care of in a similar or in a better manner than it would be at home, because it comes with a certain background. And today, after 15 years, I've personally realized that when you say that you've been in the industry for 15 years, there are just lesser questions that come our way, because there is that kind of experience that talks for it. Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
It is indeed an incredible journey that we get to hear from you. 15 years is a long time,
15 years is a long time.
and 6,000 plus pets
Yes.
taken care of. And how many families? Like it would be more than 6,000 families that have kind of.
6,000, 6,000, maybe a little lesser, because now I have same family, second dog, same family, third dog. So maybe the number of families are probably lesser than 6,000. Two families, one dog, because now people have gotten around and gotten their second pet or their third pet. Pets were no more, those families have gotten around with their second pet. So I would say number of families is actually lesser, number of dogs, and I'll always remember the number of dogs. Yeah.
Imagine. And tell me, your love for dogs, was it something which was like spontaneous, or if we try to understand your own journey, like you've been an HR, you've studied management, how did you get an idea to start this thing? And that too, when this entire industry was pretty like at a very nascent stage, I would say, right? Very nascent stage. Now I understand, like, okay, now there are like pet lovers, but when you started, I'm sure there would be something that was driven more by passion rather than initially by business. So something, something I would like to understand from you. Our viewers would also like to understand that.
Yeah. So I didn't start off, or rather, I didn't grow up with pets. So I've grown up with. So Pune has a very gully ka dog culture. There's always one dog that, like, general, the lane kids or the society kids are taking care of, and that's probably what I grew up with. So I would largely remember taking care and, like, taking one dog to the vet, but one or two of my cousins had dogs, so yes, there was a little bit of interaction at that point in time. But what changed for me and how I became a pet parent is when I actually got married. So I got married into an out and out dog family. They've always had dogs. They've always had two dogs, never one dog. They've always had two dogs. So those two are the ones who technically adopted me, right? Because they were already there, and I was like the new person into that family. So then it started off from there by taking care of them, like full-fledged, like right from walks, food, illnesses, medical, everything. And then as it moved up, so one of my dogs actually fell very sick. So by then I was still doing the very boring jobs, what I now term them as boring jobs. And I was managing an IT firm for my family business where I was doing the HR. And I knew that I never wanted to do IT. Like I've always wanted to do, I've always been a services related person, a customer oriented person, a people oriented person. And at some points in time, I randomly remember telling my husband saying that this is not what I want to do. And at some time, I'm going to open up my own dog shelter. This was like a random thought somewhere at some point in time. And so it so happened that I was kind of done with what I was doing in terms of I wasn't enjoying my work. Somewhere around the same time, one of my pet actually fell very sick, and I was doing the veterinary rounds very often at that point in time. Just as then I decided to take a break from work, I quit the company, and honestly, I wasn't doing anything. But then the veterinary the vet visits would literally take up my time. Pet got better. And at one point in time, I remember asking Dr. Hartikar, he's my mentor. I said, can I just keep coming over here because I have nothing to do at home, literally. And no medical background, no science background. I couldn't see blood flowing at that point in time if I was in the clinic and all of that. And it so happened that he said, come over, like, we'll like, just come over. I don't know what you'll do, but come over. So I started managing his clinic for him. I would do database management, client interactions, putting stuff in Excel for him because he needed somebody to organize the data for him. And it so happened that the work continued. And then it eventually went on to assisting him in one or two surgeries, holding the dogs, dealing with stressed out clients, calming the pet parents down at that point in time because they're stressing out because their dog is not well. And those were all the tertiary activities that I would do for the clinic. And then one such Diwali, that was 2007, dogs were coming back, not keeping well. And the primary reason was they were kept at a boarding facility or a breeder's place because the families were traveling and they were coming back home sick. And that is what
Hmm.
actually changed a whole lot of things for me, because in 2007 pet care still meant NGO, right?
Hmm.
Shelters, uh,
Absolutely.
sick animals, abandoned animals, and I really wasn't sure whether I was cut out for that. And so when this, it was like a happy marriage. You're working with pets, they're not your own, you're taking care of them for a little while for somebody else, and then they're going back home,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So that is where the idea actually came up, and that's when we started looking up. Uh, my parents already had the place where PetSitters is currently located at Manhinjewadi. So that kind of, my dad kind of jumped into the bandwagon saying, yeah, 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 we'll do this. I'll help you kind of come up with it. And that's how it actually came to what it is today. So we started off with 6 kennels way back in 2008. I didn't think it would grow so big. I thought it will be a very April, May vacations, Diwali vacations, Christmas vacations kind of a thing, and I'll still have some free time to do what I wanted to. No, it's not a seasonal business at all. It's a year-round thing. It pulled me in before I knew it,
Hmm.
and yeah, so 6 kennels, 12 kennels, eventually 24, and now 42. Yeah.
Interesting. So, you from no pet parent to someone who's now driving such a big business, it's quite incredible. And I don't
Thank
think
you.
it's, yeah, it's something which you can do without having a passion and love for something that's so
So I
intriguing,
think
interesting.
it's reciprocal because pets talk to you. Yeah, I mean, if anybody out there who says that it's an animal who doesn't talk, I think I kind of very strongly go against it and say that no, they do. It's just a
Hmm.
different language, but they
Right.
do, and it's far more clear, and it's far more easy sometimes to get past them than it is to humans, if I may say so.
Great. So, what were your initial challenges that you faced?
People, people, getting right people
That.
to work, because we're a labor intensive industry. Like I
Hmm.
can do as much automation in everything, but I can't get a human hand to work with a dog, right? I have
Hmm.
to have that. Like it's impossible for me to replace that. So I think it's still one of the bigger challenges. I mean, that's probably the only thing that still stresses me out or will give me once in a while a sleepless night, because we're still we don't have, how would I put it? There's no trained stuff out there, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm looking
Hmm.
at people. My first question is, "आप कुत्तों से डरते हो क्या?" Right? That is my first question.
Hmm.
Then, if they say no, then I will work on your training. I just need you to be able to understand the compassion aspect of it. So if there's any, I mean, all my handling staff or all my staff who actually deals with the cleaning, the poop cleaning, feeding, all of that, what I need from you is compassion, and I need you to be able to understand that they're not going to tell you what they need. You're going to have to be able
Hmm.
to understand what they need. So I
Hmm.
think people is still probably, it's still, like I said, is the biggest one. But today, over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, yes, there has been a change. There are more people like you and me who are entering the industry. There are more people like me. There are parents who are encouraging children to, like, all the pet families that I've touched upon. There are so many children who've now, young adults who've come and worked with me, interned with me, and that's a good thing. I mean, I never got that. Maybe at the behest of saying that if I had to go to my father and say that I want to work with dogs in 12th standard, he would have said, let's do graduation and then let's figure it out. So, like, stuff like that, because
Hmm.
I mean, as an opportunity, I think people are seeing it happening. Trainers are coming up in a large way. So yes, there are people like you and me who are now entering the industry as a career option.
Hmm.
Um, Other than that, I think the handling staff is something that now my outlook towards that has changed, in terms of I'm probably not going to get somebody who's going to work with me for 5 years straight up, but 6 months,
Hmm.
7 months, but I'll do my best. After that person moves out, we have a new team who probably walks in, but that is something. So when I started off, what I thought would be a challenge is to convince people to come to my place.
Hmm.
No, not at all. That was the easiest. Getting my first pet parent or my second pet parent or even my 100th pet parent wasn't even the challenge, because what we were giving was quality. We were doing that, so that was taken care of. And then people were talking about us further. The vets were talking about us, the pet parents were talking about us. But to be able to get that main handling staff who basically assists you in doing everything is still big. It's still, like I said, is my biggest challenge
I
or
understand.
worry point. If not challenge, I think it's a worry point. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So, what has been your first aha moment?
So one of the first moments that I actually remember is now, so like I said, my study is services marketing, right? So um, my my customer is different and my client is different. The one who pays is really not who I'm looking after at the end of the day. And so earlier there was a lot of talk with clients in terms of like, this is how we do, that is how we do, and this is what your pet did at the end of the day, and this is the feedback that we have. And then we would obviously have a lot of stressed out families coming to drop their pet off because it was their first time that they were leaving the pet away. And here is me who's trying to tell them that no, we'll take good care of them and like keep them healthy, safe, everything. And then I had this one lady who came in and she dropped her dog off and she cried buckets full. Like, and sometimes it gets a little awkward because I don't know what to say after a point in time. So
Mm-hmm.
we just let that situation like follow through. And then 10 days later, this dog is going home. So we get him out of the kennel, lady's waiting in the office. This dog runs to her and then he runs straight back into the kennel and waits inside at the kennel.
Oh,
Point,
interesting.
num- point number one. Then we get this dog out of the kennel and then I put the leash onto him and I take him to the car. He refuses to sit in the car. Then we put
Okay.
him in the car. She goes to get his whatever stuff that they had left behind with us. She goes to get his bags again. This dog jumps out again and then again goes back into the kennel. And I said, that probably for me has probably been things which have overwhelmed me at a level to be able to say that I really don't care what the pet parent thinks about me, but what I really need to work for is this.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think that for me was like a client satisfaction. Like I really don't care what you say at that point in time. Like, good, bad, ugly, whichever way it goes. I know I've done my job. I know I've done it well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there can't be any more better testimony than what this dog just showed me. And it just probably kind of stamped everything that we had done. We were doing practices, procedures, a certain level of care and love, like the TLC aspect of it, all of that just for me still lives in that moment. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Incredible. So, are you having any kind of future plans of expansion? Anything that you would like to share with our viewers?
So, yes, last year we came up with our own training and behavior school. I run it in partnership with Sonali. It's called the Dogs Place. So that's something which will be now taking forefront over these next 2 to 3 years. Because for us, the 2 years of COVID kind of have changed the scenario for us. But the pet boarding industry will continue. I mean, like as mentioned, we're good on that front. It's pretty much like it runs and it's got its own procedures and everything which is set. um, so the dog training school is what I'm now looking at bringing it a little more into focus. My vision for this place is to be a one-stop shop for pet parents. So yes, I am looking at options where I can come up or tie up with veterinaries, where we have an inpatient hospital. That's something is something that I'm
Incredible.
really working on at this point in time. A pet cafe, grooming
Lovely.
center, because these are the three things that right now I'm kind of gunning towards. So when a puppy walks in or when a dog walks in, I'm basically telling you that this is your dog's mall, right?
Wow.
Everything that your dog needs as a service, as a product, as a facility, that is what Pet Sitters wishes to be for you. Um, whether it be daycare, whether it be overnight boarding. So we're looking at daycare, overnight boarding. We have a swimming pool already in place at Pet Sitters. We do dog agility, we do training, behavior, and of course the next ones being the grooming, the pet cafe, and the veterinary hospital. So these are a couple of things that I'm looking at now over 24-25, is something that, fingers crossed, I mean those are the plans that are already put in place. Now there's a plug and play mode that we are
Yeah.
looking into. Yeah.
Interesting. So, when we look at this kind of expansion that you're planning, and I'm sure you're also looking at other pets, right? As you
Mhm.
in the initial part of the conversation, you said we've been primarily a dog's place. So,
Yes.
so which are the other pets that you will be taking care of?
So one, of course, the cat industry. That is
Hmm.
another one that's coming up. I'm personally, so my belief is that I will work with animals that I understand best. So for me, that's part of the reason why we haven't actually got into the cattery business as well. Though I know there's like, I mean, every week there will be at least one or two phone calls asking people asking me whether we do board cats as well. So that's something that I'm still dabbling in. The other ones that are coming up is hamsters, guinea pigs. So I'm
Okay.
looking at creating safer spaces for them because I've been largely dog centric.
Hmm.
These are pets who are scared of loud noises. So I cannot have the dog barking affect these smaller pets at any given point in time. So that is something. Yes, these are smaller setups relatively, even looking at a collaborative mode, if that's something that comes through, it's not necessary that, like, I need to personally step into all of this, because there are so many people out there who are doing so many different things now, that I think it's just a matter of finding sometimes that right connection and kind of getting on with it, instead of, like, putting all my fingers into doing everything. Because I believe that what you understand is what you need to. I can either I can study further and further into it, or I can completely take up a new subject and kind of get into it. So those are the pets that we are looking at. I always personally wanted to have a horse on board. So fingers crossed, that's something that I'll, like I said, you put it out in the universe and maybe at some point in time it'll come through. So, but yeah, I do want to, I mean, that's something like, something on the lines of a petting farm. So, how is it
Interesting.
that we do it? Where is it that we do it? As mentioned, it's still very nascent over here. There's a lot that I read up about. And one of the other very close things to my heart is I work with a lot of young adults. So that's
Hmm.
one age group that I do a lot of programs with. So the human animal interactions program that we do. Um, I work a lot on the front where, right from when you're looking at getting a pet home, so we do something called a pre-pet consult. So that basically helps you understand what does it mean to have a dog at home. I work with children, if there are any children in the family, to be able to get them over here and get them to actually work with the dog an entire day, so that they know that it's not just fun and play, but there is responsibility, jobs to be done, and all of that. And the young adult is the 14 to 24 age group that I love working with, where I want to be able to expose them to an environment which is a little away from what your normal education system looks like. So
Interesting.
we've got a couple of sessions for a school, and um, for one of the child actually asked me, she said, "So you don't have to be in like clean clothes at your work?" I said, "No, don't get me dirty is a part of our job." Yeah.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
So, it's great to hear that, the way you're trying to expand and kind of create a unique pet farm which has so much of love, passion. So it's indeed interesting and super exciting to hear this entire piece from you. Your brand story, what you have planned for the coming days. So I think you're trying to consolidate this entire,
Yes.
offering into, something which is like a one-stop shop. I haven't
Mhm.
heard of something like that. I think I would like to, hear more on this because, there's something like we understand that there's tech, tech leading everything, right? And,
Mhm.
on the other hand, you're saying that you are not a tech brand while you'll use
Yeah.
tech, but the
Yes.
center of your entire offering is human. It's human centric
Humans.
offering, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
then in that case, when the entire landscape is so human centric, so obviously there is something. from the scaling point of view that you need to plan. So what do you think could be the challenges? Because this is something interesting to know while you've been there in industry for so long, and I don't think anybody would be knowing as much as you would be knowing. You are a thought leader in this space, right? So if we have to understand, like from a scalability point of view, um, uh, so then how do you think would be the challenges that you could be facing? I understand the human centric challenges, but what
Yeah.
could be the other challenges that we could have? Because that entire thing, hearing from you, it makes this entire piece very interesting for the viewers, obviously.
Okay. So I think one now all of us, like all pet businesses who started about 8 or 9 years back, or I think what we are right now facing is this sudden influx of um, people who see where this industry is today. So there are a lot of, I wouldn't really, I mean, put it in an age bracket wise, but there's a lot of people who are now entering the industry and kind of taking it at a level which one actually it's a good thing, like entering. I mean, the more people, yes, of course, that's when you know that the industry is growing. Like when I heard of the first scam that happened sometime back in Gurgaon, I said, now the industry is come. It's like, when you hear about scams happening, it's like, you've arrived. So I think what people I think our price points is something that will be a challenge,
Okay.
because companies will come in with lesser price points where we are still bagging on our experience, and therefore we seem to be more expensive. So there will be a lot of riffraff, right? There's going to be a lot
Right.
of riffraff that will enter. Then eventually it'll again kind of it'll run through a sieve,
Hmm.
and then some will settle and some will move out. So that's one of the things. Technology actually, I mean, as you mentioned, yes, it's also actually coming up in a large way because all our mundane jobs, bookings,
Hmm.
occupancies, booking management systems, those are now coming online. So that takes that takes the task of handling the phone through and through. So
Hmm.
those things are basic, and people are used to it. That's the other
Right.
aspect of it. People
Right.
are okay now dealing with an app or dealing with a web-based booking system. So that's the other good thing that's come out. The face-to-face is something that is something that all of us need to keep constantly working on, because I want to know who is taking care of my dog,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Just the way I
Hmm.
want to know who my child's school teacher is. That's
Hmm.
exactly how for me it translates into. Like I want to know the building. I want to know which class my child sits in, and that's exactly how it goes. So to be able to work on that scalability is, I mean, one of the ways for me to personally deal with it is the young adult program that I do, because I
Hmm.
want to be able to give them the exposure. I want these kids to understand and then probably go out and take jobs in these industries, and because you come with a certain actual physical dog handling experience. And that for me is something that I will probably vouch in for a lot more. That's where I'll actually put my money in,
Hmm.
to be able to say that this is what everybody, mentorships, teaching programs, shadow internship programs. This is what I hear myself saying to a lot of young people who are looking at getting, not just young, actually, anybody who's actually
Yeah.
looking at
Right.
entering the industry. And the good thing is, we are not, this industry is not age driven. You could be for 18 to 60, and you could still be a dog walker, dog photographer, dog baker, pet sitter, groomer, and still enjoy it. And I think
Hmm.
the other one being that pets are, they're growing exponentially. So I think all of us have a space today. All of us.
Hmm.
For another
Hmm.
10 years at least, all of us have a space. So even though I say price points is like, something that we also, services bundling is coming up in a very large way. Like as mentioned, I'm looking at getting into a consolidation of activities as such, because I'm obviously looking at it saying, once a pet walks in, I want to be able to cater to everything that the
Hmm.
pet needs. I want to be a reference point of such. I want pet sitters as a team to be a reference point as such. So if there's anything that the vet says,
Hmm.
there are people who call me up and say, what do I do? because within the entire pet industry, the pet sitter is the only one who actually deals with the pet owner for a prolonged period of time,
Right,
right?
right, right.
The vet deals with it for half an hour. The groomer deals with the pet for about 2 hours. The walker deals with the pet half an hour morning, evening. But we are the only ones who actually get to live with the pet other than the family. And therefore, I think as an industry, this is where, so um, it primarily boils down to gain your
Mm,
knowledge, get your facts right. Yeah. Be truthful. That's probably the other thing. So you have to be transparent to your customer. Dog doesn't eat. Say that out loud. I think the
mm.
more and more people do it, I think as an industry also, the industry will get a better name. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, apart from the young adults program, are there any such programs where you're trying to create an experience for your audience, where they get to experience your services or experience this entire? See, for example, I might be a dog lover, I might
Mhm.
like pets, but I have those initial inertia moments where I just can't, think of having a pet. So, along
Mhm.
with whatever you're doing, so are there any special initiatives that you are, kind of taking care of, or you're spearheading to
Okay.
create a happy space for everyone, a confident space? Because I think that with joy comes fear, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, so there's something that I could understand, because there's a friend of mine. She has, I think, close to 12 odd cats. And
Wow.
yeah, so she manages. But the moment I see so many cats, I kind of get a phobia. How does she manage it? I
Mhm.
can't just comprehend it. For me,
Yes.
while I admire, adore them, but I kind of get scared. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So we do, so as mentioned, so the way it's divided for us is before getting a pet,
Hmm.
puppyhood. I mean, after getting a pet, there's puppyhood, and then there is the adult dog that we are
Right,
working with.
right,
So before getting a pet, as mentioned, we have been doing the pre-pet consults for over 10
right,
years now,
right,
where again it started off from I want a dog. So people would come to me saying, I want to get a golden retriever or a lab or whatever. And then when they actually work around that dog or when they see it, I've had questions like, oh, ye itna bada hoga. And
Acha.
that's my starting point. Like, that's my first red flag. Like, no, that's a red flag for anybody for that matter. I said, yes, ye itna bada hoga. Like, so
Hmm.
that's the whole idea saying that, okay, fine, let's tell them then what is it? What does it entail? Like,
Hmm.
from the entire 15 years of your life, you are taking care of a being, you're taking care of an animal, a life who's 100% dependent on you, right? They're
Hmm.
not going to have a
Right.
mind of their own. They're not going to walk away on their own. They're going to look at you for food, walk, pee, poop, activities, enrichment, everything. So that's where the pre-pet actually came about. And that has taken a very large forefront in the consulting that we do.
Right.
Then it scrolls down into giving them an actual interaction meet with the pets that we have on board to be able
Right.
to actually handle, like, what does it mean to get a saliva coated toy out of a dog's mouth, because that is dog ownership, right? It's not
Hmm.
the nice photographs and like, the videos that we see on Instagram, but it's that saliva coated toy that comes out of mouth and not feel yucky about it is what dog ownership is. So we actually run them through that entire thing to be able to say that how is it that it needs to be done. We run them on the costs, we run them on the medical aspect of it, we run them on the food options that are available, service options that are available. And apart from that, then even though I say young adult, I mean, yes, young adult is a larger category, I would say. But yes, the program is open for everybody. The program
Hmm.
is open for just about anybody who says, I love dogs and I want to work with them. And for me, the line is, I understand that you love dogs, but it's that's not the only thing that's sufficient to work with them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Interesting. So, what do you think has been the key highlight of your entire journey, apart from, the incredible things that you shared?
Other than
Is there
dog love,
anything?
um, I think there's a number of lives we get to touch. I think we see the
Lovely.
dogs, we kind of, I mean, all the families that have been around with us, I think they're pretty much family. Um, I think it matters to my pet parents that I remember the dog's name details better than sometimes the owner names, or like, sometimes I don't really remember their names, but I'll ask them saying, I think we've met. Can you just tell me your dog's name? And that's when I have an entire history on the pet parent,
Oh,
because that's what I
interesting.
remember them as. Yes. Um, I think it's that. I think it's the lives that we've managed to. I mean, all the dogs who've come, interacted, stayed, lived with us. Some who we've said no to because we really couldn't work on a particular pet at one particular point in time. All the people who have said, sorry, we can't board your pet because we are full. I think everybody still in some way or the other has managed to, one, I think, teach me something.
Hmm.
Every pet parent comes in with a completely different personality, and then um, and we as a team will always talk from the dog side, always, right? So pet parents will be coming in with requests which we probably cannot take it forward because the dog is not enjoying that particular activity, and staying firm at that point in time is what probably initially was very difficult, because like mentioned, my paying customer is different, my paying client is different, and my customer is different. But then no, over a period, I think I got around to saying a no very effectively and effortlessly, if I may say that, to be able to say that no, this is not something that your pet will do because your pet's not going to be comfortable doing this. And the fact that our word is taken verbatim is, I think, what matters, because as mentioned, so I think that for me is what speaks about my experience. Yeah.
Great, great, lovely.
Yeah.
Do you think there's something that you would like to share with the budding entrepreneurs or pet
Go for
lovers?
it. Go for it. If there's, I mean, of course, I mean, just because you're listening to this, that doesn't mean you have to enter the pet industry. You're just probably listening to this because you love what these guys do. But if you're looking at being an entrepreneur, I think get your get your facts right, get your knowledge right about what you're looking at doing it. And there is a starting point to that knowledge, but there is something that you're going to have to continuously learn. Learning never stops. Figure out whether your work is going to teach you more and more, or you need to actually go back to books. Yes, certificates sometimes matter. Like, doing courses, webinars, exposing yourselves to the industry, and don't stick to a pattern. Go out there, figure out if there is anybody that you can shadow intern with, work with, mentor with. Do it. Do it, because um, I think that's what, like, today, my MBA today makes a lot more sense to me than what it did 20 years back, honestly. So yeah, because I live and breathe that services marketing Kotla book that I have at this point in time. So yeah, so I think go out there, learn, don't stop learning. I think that's probably the only thing that I can say.
Lovely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It was
Thank you so much, Monica.
lovely speaking with you. We look forward to having more such interesting conversations with you.
Same here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much.